John Hoover has been covering Oklahoma sports for decades. He's written for newspapers, magazines, and digital outlets. And for a lot of fans, he's been one of the most familiar bylines in the state. But earlier this year, John shared something deeply personal. He's been diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. And after a long career in sports journalism, he's stepping back from full-time work. In this week's episode, John opens up about that decision, what the diagnosis has taught him about life and about purpose, and how he's finding peace even as he navigates something so uncertain. This is One More Thing with Nathan Thompson. Well, John, I appreciate you coming on and joining the podcast.
Hey, Nathan, man, it's always great to see you again.
I appreciate it. You know, we've spent a lot of time on the road in the sports world. Now I'm in the news world, but it's great to see you again. I guess, I really want to start off the first question. The most important thing is how are you doing?
I'm doing well. First of all, we miss you in sports.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, no, it's we love watching you guys. And there's so many. I noticed that there's so many sports guys who are now kind of transitioning into news, just kind of the way of the business. But we miss all of you guys that we've been hanging out with for years on the sports beat, covering OU, OSU, Tulsa, the Thunder. So, but no, I'm doing good. On medication, diagnosed in 2023 with Parkinson's disease, kind of managing it, kind of hopping between doctors, one doctor and another doctor in different cities, different states even. So it's a lot to keep up with, but I've been able to step back from the full-time publisher role with Sooners on SI, part of the Sports Illustrated situation. Mm-hmm. And I've turned a lot of those duties over to my formerly managing editor. He's now co-publisher, Ryan Chapman. So we're still cranking out more copy than just about anybody that is out there, more content than anybody that's doing it. I'm just not doing it as much as I used to. I tell people, as the publisher of a sports website that follows OU, a school like as big as OU, as popular as OU, I'm back to about, I've cut it in half. I'm back to about 40 hours a week. So,
When did you first realize something was wrong?
Oh, gosh. 2021, I think, is when I finally realized, in 2019, I noticed there was a twitch in my foot, my right foot. And 2021, I noticed that it was in my hand as well. And so I was doing some delicate mouse work, trying to scroll with my mouse, the little button you're scrolling. And my hand was going like this. And I'm like, what in the world is going on with my hand? And from there, it's just been, kind of seeing this person, seeing that person, one more doctor, one more neurologist. And the confirmation came in 2023.
You think you probably had this for a decade before it was diagnosed. What was it like to finally have a name for it, to finally know officially what it was?
It's set me back a little bit because there's various levels. There's this thing called essential tremor that doesn't have anything to do with your brain. It's more of a neurological, more of a nervous system type thing, I think. But this is specific to what your brain is doing with Parkinson's disease. So, it was different. There was some clarity. But I say that, Nate, and here we go. I was talking with a neurologist, a movement disorder specialist in McKinney, Texas, north of Dallas. And I'm doing this thing. I'm talking to her and I'm telling her what's going on. And my leg is going like this, my right leg. It's not like a tremor, like back and forth, back and forth, back. It's kind of circular and and she just flat out said, that what I'm seeing right there is not Parkinson's disease. And I just went, well, what is it? She goes, I don't know, but this is the part where you start seeing people in Oklahoma. I don't have. And she kind of kicked me to the curb a little bit and said, go see somebody that's closer for you in Oklahoma. Me and my wife were like, what? So we're in the process of, and that was like 2 months ago. We're in the process now of finding another doctor, getting down, I have an appointment, I think next week. So we're going to kind of start the process all over again. 2 years into it, we're going to kind of start the process all over again.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Now, on you mentioned your Oklahoma Sooners on SI website. You wrote an article there where you announced that you had Parkinson's. You said what that meant for you going forward. And I've got it right here. In there, you wrote Parkinson's, quote, steals pieces of you. Can you expand on that? And how do you come to terms with that?
Yeah, it's tough coming to terms. I'm new at this still, and so I'm trying to be as relentlessly, annoyingly positive as I can. But what I mean by that is, if you took 100 different Parkinson's patients and you put them in a room and you interviewed 100 different people and asked them, what are your symptoms? When did they start? How long have you had them? Which one's the worst? Which ones annoys you the most? How's your situation been with a doctor? What kind of medication are you taking? How many different times a day do you take the medication? What dose do you take? You would literally have 100 different answers. It's so broad, and the web of Parkinson's disease is so all encompassing. There's so many different, there might be like 40 symptoms. It might be more than that. But for me, it was, I've been losing sleep, and I thought it was work related, like everybody else. I thought it was stress related and job, and I need to sleep better, and I need to do this. Well, one of the things that people who have just regular sleep disorder, or maybe they have sleep apnea or something like that, they don't wake up in the night fighting somebody in a dream and throw themselves out of bed punching the wall. That's one of the things that I do. I don't know why. I did it last night. These are crazy symptoms that, not everybody has that symptom, but it's rapid eye movement REM sleep disorder is what it's called. I've had that for years and years and years. And
you had no idea that maybe it was connected to something.
Yeah, no, I just thought, well, that was a weird dream, and for to number one, stay out of jail, and number two, not injure my wife, and number three, right, not have to answer any of those questions. We've been stacking pillows between us, big, pile of pillows, because in the middle of the night, I'll be doing this. I'll be doing some kung fu stuff. Like, where does that come from? So we have a good laugh with it, and we tell stories, but it's concerning, and it certainly has affected, various areas of our lives.
So obviously, Parkinson's is a disease that's very hard to handle for the person that has it. It's also challenging for family members, your wife, you right there, kids.
Yep.
How do you come together as a family to deal with this?
It's a real challenge. My daughter's in the healthcare industry. She's an occupational therapist. She works with pediatric autism patients. So she works in the neurological, like, general area, right? So she has some knowledge about how many movement disorder specialists, or good, 4-star, 5-star movement disorder specialists or neurologists there are in Tulsa, or there are in Oklahoma City, or in Oklahoma in general. So she has this broad kind of knowledge, 30,000 foot view of the neurology sector. And so she's given me like advice, right? Like medical advice. It's amazing. But just generally speaking, the I guess care providers, care partners is what we call them. Your wife, your husband, your spouse, the person you're living with. Those are the ones. Those are the folks that are the real heroes here. The kind of unsung, they're in the muck with you. They're down there in the fight, but they're not necessarily going through the same things. So it's I feel bad for my wife, because I'm in good shape right now. 2 years into my diagnosis, I'm in pretty good shape, but I'm forgetting more things, a little bit here and a little bit there. She has to remind me of more things here and there, and not just her, but everybody else. I mentioned Ryan, my co-publisher. He's constantly sending me little texts or reminders. It's just things that I've been on this really high, intense, focused track for a long time, career-wise. And now you're like, wait a minute, how did I forget that? I've always known that. That's a piece of information I've always known, right? So those are the things that creep up on you, and you don't even know it's happening. You're like, how could I forget that Archie Griffin is the only 2-time Heisman Trophy winner, right? How?
In charge of the Heisman here in Oklahoma.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been a Heisman nerd since I was like 6 or 7 years old, when John Capoletti won it for Penn State. And I've been just in love with the Heisman. I've been given the ability to, the opportunity here in Oklahoma to be the person who represents the state of Oklahoma for the Heisman Trust. And as such, I picked the Heisman voters in our state, 22 voters every year. You were one for a while. And that's one of those bits of information, right? That you do not, it's at the core of your being. And this trivia question came up on TV. Who is the only Heisman Trophy winner? And immediately my mind said Archie Griffin. But before my mouth could get out and interrupt the person that was on the TV doing it, the information was lost. That's what Parkinson's disease does to you. So 5 minutes later, I'm standing in the kitchen washing my hands, and I screamed out, "Archie freaking Griffin!"
Now, I mean, you talk about how important your career's been to you. I mean, you've been doing this for 40 years, right?
Yep.
Since 1985. You announced your decision that you were stepping back just a few weeks before the football season started. Is this something that you knew was coming and you just kind of waited to announce, or were you struggling for trying to decide, can I get one more season in? Was that a tough decision for you?
Very, very tough decision. The toughest decision I've ever faced professionally and personally. Yeah, it was very difficult. Probably, I think if I remember right, all right, if my memory is not failing me, Ryan and I discussed this. My wife is my business partner as well in the LLC that we own, that the media company that we own that runs the website. We discussed it, and then Ryan and I discussed it, and we made the plans, I think, last summer to get through the 2025 season and see where it takes us from there.
Now, I assume a lot of your identity has been tied to what you do for a living.
Oh, yeah.
Stepping back from that, is it a crisis of identity with you right now?
No, not necessarily. I'll tell you something that I do. It's this is kind of tough to characterize. I've always enjoyed being part of covering OU football, for instance, for the last 21 years, college football since 1997, right? I've really enjoyed being out front in a lot of those areas, asking questions that I think need to be asked, important questions, and in the tone that need to be asked, that those questions need to be asked. It was important to me to get those out. I met Woodward and Bernstein one time, and I engaged them in a Q&A, and he asked me, Bob Woodward asked me, "What do you do at the paper here?" And I just was like, well, me? He said, "What's your name and what do you do?" And I told him, and he said, "Yeah." Because I asked him a simple question. I said, "Well, how did you source that?" Because it was about a vengeful wife trying to bury one of Nixon's guys, right? And I just said a simple question: "How did you source that?" And his response was, "Who are you and what do you do here at the paper?" And that was one of those moments in my career where I was like, I'm doing the right thing. I chose the right profession. Somebody like that is interested in who I am and what my contributions are. And I thought, yeah, okay, I can do this. I can be a sports writer. And that was, just like 10 or 12 years ago, whatever it was. So identity-wise, I've never really had to identify as a byline or a column sig or a sports writer or anything like that. I'm just John Hoover, right? I'm just, my mom's youngest child. Not a big deal. But over the course of, the past 40 years, you're right. People see me and they know who I am because of my work, right? Because of things that I've done at work. So I haven't really struggled with losing that. What I've struggled with is not going to the games, not going to the press conferences, not interacting with, all the colleagues and friends that I've made over the years. I'm just kind of hanging out, kind of centralizing my work here at home. I work from home just about every day. I've been to a couple of games this year and probably going to go to a couple more. But that's the tough part for me, is just not being part of that community. I should say, I'm still part of it. I'm just not interactive with all the people that I've come to, know and admire and like for so many years.
Is there something right now that you think about as you're, battling this disease that gives you comfort, that gives you strength or peace?
Not sure. In what way?
Well, it's got to be, a tough time as you deal with this. You've got to have comforting thoughts. You mentioned your family. Is that what you kind of turn to whenever you're struggling with this disease, and how are you going to deal with this?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, 100%. I think I mentioned this earlier. I'm relentlessly positive about a lot of things in life. This is one of them. I'm very confident that my generation will look back 10 years from now, 20 years from now, whatever, and we will have found a cure for Parkinson's disease. I really believe that. I'm sure there are people watching right now who have PD who say, yeah, I thought the same thing, Hoover. You're way off base. But that's just my nature. And 10 years, 20 years from now, if there's not a cure for PD, I might not be singing the same tune. But yeah, that's it, man. I just try to stay positive. I try to, over the past 2 years, for sure, I've tried to live intentionally. I've tried to be more involved and more engaged in my own life, in my daily life. PD has made me look at the future, I think, a little bit differently. And I know it sounds cornball, but I try to live each day a little more purpose, a little more intention. I've been spending more time with my wife, certainly with my kids. I've reconnected with some old friends and colleagues that have gotten away from me over the years for one reason or another. I spend more time just petting my dogs, appreciating everything. So what I tell people is this, and I hope this doesn't come across as too corny. Stop and smell the roses, right? Everybody says that. This is so true. When you're facing a disease like this and you've got like time to ponder it, time to consider it, go ahead and stop and appreciate things. Take that trip, right? You probably know this. I drove to Alaska last summer by myself, drove through Canada, right? 28 days on the road. It was amazing. It was the best trip I've ever had. And I was the only one in the car, just me and my music, right? And my snacks. Last month, OU was on a bye week, and I realized that, you know what? I have not seen my favorite NFL team, the LA Rams, play in SoFi Stadium yet. So I told my wife I'm going to drive to LA. She's like, when? Like this weekend? You spring it on people. But that's kind of my mantra now with life is just, if you want to do it, go do it. I'm not retired, right? I'm still working that 40 hours-ish a week. But go ahead and watch that movie you've been meaning to watch, right? Here we go, Nathan. Halloween's coming up, and these past couple of weeks I realized I've never seen Dracula. I've never seen Frankenstein. I've never seen The Mummy, The Wolfman, The Invisible Man, the old Hollywood classics, right? So I've been binging those old movies. They're like run about an hour 30, hour and 20. Last night I watched Creature from the Black Lagoon. So yeah, if you've been wanting to read a book, sit down and read a book. As the little girl says, I get laughs with this, but it's true. Pet that dog, get as much joy as you can from each day, because each day is a gift.
It's definitely, you do sound relentlessly positive, and obviously it's not your responsibility to try to help other people who are struggling with this, because you've got a lot on your plate right now. But it sounds like, is that something that you would like to do, is to people see this perspective that you have and this attitude you have, and maybe if they're struggling, they can look to you as someone as maybe a motivator?
I hope so. I mean, to me, that's what life needs to be about, is how you can impact other people. I could, draw my shades and close my doors and sit in here and feel sorry for myself. Or I could, continue to try to live my life at the level that I've always, tried to live it, with the new responsibility, maybe. And I think this is incumbent on, if I'm not saying everybody has to do this, but if people know who you are, and if you've gained a following, like I have, I'm not just talking about social media, but people pick up the newspaper or click on my website every day to read what it is that I have to say, and then they give me feedback on that, on Facebook or on Twitter or on instant messages or whatever. And to get that feedback and to interact with those people makes you realize they're following your work. And so I feel like I have almost a responsibility to say, hey, guys, if you're struggling with Parkinson's disease, I can help you. I've got PD, and here are some things that I do that work for me for now. Again, 10 years from now, I might be singing a different tune, but as of right now, yeah, I mean, think about it, Nathan. Every 6 minutes on average of every day, a new Parkinson's disease patient is diagnosed in the United States. So they're facing a lot of doubt, a lot of fear, certainly an uphill struggle. And I just want all those people to know, hey, you've seen Michael J. Fox, you've seen Muhammad Ali and Ozzy Osbourne, right? Tough cases for sure, but you're not alone. There's a lot of degrees and a lot of different types of PD. You're going to hear a lot over the next 12 months or so. You're going to hear suggestions, recommendations. You have to do this. You have to do. Here's what I suggest. Find a neurologist as fast as you can. And then find a movement disorder specialist. Good luck with that. They're hard to find. But then trust them. But don't ever stop advocating for yourself, and your care partner needs to get in on this as well. We're all so different. We've all got different stories. Just find out what works best for you, and then don't be afraid to try other things. Don't be afraid to switch it up. So that's my advice to Parkinson's disease patients moving forward.
You've been so upfront about this and reaching out to people. Have you gotten responses?
Oh, yeah. Hundreds. Just on the announcement, just on the column, and put it out on social media, whether it's phone calls or, text messages or emails or social media, probably 700 replies, which touches my heart to know that there are people out there who, most of them were just saying, I'm sorry to hear this. You're a great guy. We appreciate your work. We'll pray for you. Most of them are saying stuff like that, but there's a lot of replies that are saying, here's what you need to try. Try some of this. Get you some ivermectin. It runs the whole gamut of solutions that people have. But it's, I look into all of them, and I ask my doctor about some of them, and, we have discussions. So it's been helpful. It's been very uplifting to know that that community is out there of people that support me in this fight that I'm facing. And it's very uplifting, very supportive. But it's also reaffirming to me and what's the word? Strengthening, I guess, fortifies me to go ahead and plow forward. Don't quit. Don't stop. Don't give up on the fight. There's people out there who are pulling for you, and there's people out there who have been through this fight before. I got a lot of those that, hey, my grandma had it, my uncle has it, my dad has it. I have it. People have replied back to me, and it's been very strengthening. Gives me a lot of more attitude to go forward and to keep going.
Is it tough now? I mean, you spent all these years covering in person. You mentioned a little bit watching it on TV. Not quite the same, huh?
No, definitely not the same. I've built out a space in my garage. It's leaning toward becoming someday, maybe next year at this point, a man cave. I've got a TV on the wall, and I've got sound dampeners. I've started drumming. Drumming is great therapy. Mm-hmm. And we can get into that here in a second, but I've got this space now in my garage, and I've got this TV up on my wall, and I go to the 4 screens if I'm just out there watching games, or if I'm covering the OU game. I've got a 55-inch TV right there on my wall. And my wife was like, you can watch TV in the living room. I said, dear, I love you. I love you, but I'm not watching TV. I'm covering a game. So I'm listening to Toby Rowland over here with the radio up, and then it's got a 20-second delay. And, nobody would enjoy watching or listening to a game like I do. Nobody would enjoy that, but that's how you cover a game. I mean, you've got 2 computers. You got your iPad, your computer screen. You've got your stats over here. You got your radio going, your TV going. So I'm trying to be as involved and invested as I can without being annoying to my family and my neighbors.
It's interesting, though. So much of sports, so many sports stories are about resilience and overcoming adversity. Does that help frame your battle at all those years that you've covered those, or give you any perspective?
Absolutely. Yeah. I've been lucky enough over the years, man, to I just remember a wrestler at the state tournament from Veneta, whose little sister was literally in she had some kind of MRSA virus or something. I can't remember the details, but she was she was near death. And, he was wrestling for her, and he went all the way in one state. And I just think of it, times like that. I just think of athletes like that who have overcome, whether it's poverty or death in the family or severe injury or illness or other challenges, child abuse, whatever it is. They've overcome so much to get to where they're at in life. And, I come from kind of a rough background myself, growing up in rural very rural North Pole, Alaska. I tell people it wasn't a small town; it was more of a village. Yeah, it's, and we had some rough characters, and we had some rough times growing up. My parents weren't always invested in what's going on with the sixth kid in the family, so I spent a lot of time alone. And just to get out of that scenario, out of the little, I'm not going to say slum, but it's a little slummish where we kind of grew up. So I have always kind of dragged myself up, so to speak, bootstraps or whatever you want to call it. Got a little guidance, moved in with my sister, in high school, got a high school diploma, got a college degree, put myself through college, and I've been working ever since. 17 years old the day after I graduated high school. So for me to be where I'm at now, which is, think about it, 40 years later, I spoke at my high school graduation. My Ada High School invited me to come back and be the commencement speaker, like George Bush. Think of however many people. Who's your favorite quote? Dan Marino comes back and speaks at your high school. No, here's this idiot from the 80s, John Hoover. Who the hell's this? And I went and I did my best, and I spoke. How did that happen, Nathan? How did I go from North Pole, Alaska, where I had probably about a 40% chance of being killed before I got out of high school, or go to jail, because that's the kind of neighborhood we were in, to speaking at a high school graduation? So when I think about that, and I think about athletes that I've covered and coaches who have overcome things and all the stories that I've helped tell over the years, yeah, absolutely. I'm absolutely inspired by where I came from, how I got here, how hard I've worked to get here, and things I've overcome. But the people that I get to talk to, the people I interview, the people who tell me their stories, share their life stories with me, those are the ones as well that really inspire me to keep going. What the heck? You've got a little Parkinson, so what? PD it's just a hurdle for you. Get over it. Let's go.
You've talked about some of the things that you were inspired to do since you were diagnosed, like that 4-week trip, cross-country trip to Alaska. Is there still stuff out there? Is there something now that you've always wanted to do that now you're going to try to do?
Yes, there is. And a lot of it involves sitting behind the wheel of a car. I'll be scrolling on Facebook or something, or actually I'll be usually posting our content in Facebook groups. Then this little thing will pop up and it'll be a map. And I've always been fascinated by maps, and I'll see, Highway 28 or whatever is the longest two-lane highway in the United States. And it runs from, South Carolina to Seattle. And I'm like, I bet I could do that. I bet I could drive that one from, McAllen, Texas to Minnesota. I bet I could drive that, get into from Mexico to Canada. That'd be fun. Take a couple of bags of snacks with me and some Red Bull, and I'll be, yeah. So there's still plenty out there.
66, is just coming up.
I know. Route 66, very appealing.
Is there something, as we start to wrap up here, is there something about Parkinson's that you want people to know that maybe you think they don't?
Gosh. Do what I do. Play the drums. I mean, I was always a kid who, you go to a concert, right? And everybody watches the singer and everybody watches the guitarist. I'm watching the drummer. I've been watching the drummer all my life. And, we goofed around in college. We'd crank up the stereo, me and my roommates, and we'd play this air band, just jam it. It was just like a jam session, like a major jam. What's the name of the band? Their Parkinson steps up and steals it away. I'll find it here in a minute. Anyway, you're just jamming. And I had 2 drumsticks and a milk crate, and I would pound on those for hours. And we would just have a little show. Nobody watching us, just listening to music, acting like idiots in college. And so I've always had this, secret desire, right, to be like the steering wheel drum champion of the world as I'm driving from Norman to Tulsa every day. And one day I was, I say one day, last summer I was in Alaska with seeing some friends, old friends that I grew up with in elementary school. My oldest friend, basically, I'll put it that way. And I said, so can I come over and hang out tomorrow? And he goes, I got band practice. I said, dude, you're in a band? He goes, yeah. I go, well, can I come watch you practice? He goes, it's pretty bad. It's pretty boring, but yeah, sure. I just went and spent 2.5 hours watching him and his band practice. And I left Alaska, and my garage at the time was like totally like, we inherited a bunch of stuff. We had some family members pass on and whatnot, and the garage is completely packed. Last June, I got back and I said, dude, the next time you see me, I'm going to be playing drums. And what I did is I spent a year clearing that space I told you about in my garage. And for neuroplasticity, for retraining your brain, right, and rewiring how your brain tells your feet to move and your hands to move, because that's the challenge for Parkinson's disease tremors. All that stuff coming together, and I'm out there on the drum kit, an electronic drum kit, so it's headphones only. I'm not annoying the neighbors. I don't know, hour to 3 hours a day, probably 3, 5, 6, 7 days a week sometimes, depending on what's going on in life. It's been less during football season. I got it on Facebook Marketplace for less than $300. So I get out there and I put the headphones on and I crank up the I think it's an iPhone 4 with all my old tunes on it, and I just sit there and play drums. I'm not good. I'm not a musician. I have no musical skills, but I can drum along with a lot of my favorite songs now. And it's like 4 or 5 months I've been doing this, and I feel like I'm kicking Parkinson's disease butt. I mean, some days it wins, but some days I go out and I play the drums really fast. I get on some Foo Fighters or some Red Hot Chili Peppers. And some days I walk away and I'm like, my brain told my right leg what to do, and I was able to keep the rhythm for that entire song. That's the challenge. That's one of the challenges that we face, is just telling your body, okay, I need you to do this for 3 minutes. Some people, they have a tremor in their hand and they're right-handed, and they can't eat. They can't have soup, right? Because it all spills out. So they have to learn how to do it left-handed or hold it with 2 hands and stuff like that. So for now, I feel like I'm telling my Parkinson's what I want it to do. And that's gratifying. I know it's not going to last forever. But I'm okay with where it's at right now.
John, I've known you a long time. I feel like I've learned something about you in this podcast, is that
I hope so.
You seem very good at taking your dreams, your passion, and using those to accomplish something. Your drumming to help you work on fighting Parkinson's, your love of sports, your love of writing, to make a 40-year career and going strong and still going career out of it. Is that something that's purposeful, that like, I want to use something I'm passionate about for a positive purpose in my life?
Yeah, I think so. What we all leave behind, whether you want to call it a legacy or memories or an impact or whatever, what you leave behind when you're done, when you're gone, it goes away pretty fast. And so trying to have a positive impact, trying to help other people, trying to guide or assist or lead other people, I think that's important. I think that's something that we need to do more of as a species, not to get too esoteric here, but as people, as human beings, as a human community living on this planet, man, why not? To me, that's what it's about. There's like 2 ways you can look at it. I want to own a 75-foot yacht and hit golf balls into the Mediterranean, right? That'd be cool. Or you can just live your life and help people around you and try to do what you can. Stay positive, stick your neck out once in a while, take a chance, do something that you think you want to do, and then allow that to, I don't know, grow, germinate, and help other people with it.
I always wrap up these podcasts asking the guests what's one thing that's been on their mind they just can't get off their mind for the last week or two. I'm sure you've had a lot on your mind right now, but is there something that keeps sticking with you and keeps popping up in your brain right now?
Yeah, why does Xavier Robinson not get more carries for the Sooners? 9 carries? Are you kidding me? I mean, no. These are the thoughts of a sports writer that covers a specific beat. Is you question the coaches, you question it. How is John Mateer's thumb? No, I mean, maybe just a final piece of advice for PD patients, and this really worked for me. I went the first almost a year and didn't know what to do, didn't know who to talk to, didn't know where to turn. And, like an email hit my inbox and it said, come to our, Parkinson's disease, the PD class, basically. It was a weekly class, like Thursday night, 5:30, somewhere in Midtown Tulsa. I can't remember exactly what the name of the building was. But I did that thinking, what's going to be, what good is going to come from this? And I was in there with a bunch of, 70 and 80-year-old, PD patients. And I thought, okay, so this is what it's going to look like. It really opened my eyes to kind of what's ahead or what could be ahead. Unless, of course, we defeat Parkinson's like we're going to. But I went from taking that class for, I think it was 6 weeks, maybe 2 months. And at the same time, like right after that, a PD national conference came through Broken Arrow. This was summer of 2024. And my wife and I attended both of those with great interest. And we shook a lot of hands and met a lot of people. And I came away with like, okay, this is doable. So my advice would be get granular, get off the internet, get off YouTube, and get your own boots on the ground in your community. I learned so much with the stuff that we did. So this is the way I would say it. In your own town, in your own community, get out, sign up, sit down, and learn as much as you can.
John, I really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and I just want you to know you got a lot of people rooting for you.
I appreciate that. I really do. I thank all you guys out there who seem to have my back. I love you on social media. Thank you for consuming all the content throughout the years, and we're going to keep fighting this thing, and I'm going to do it with support like that. Thank you, Nathan.
Thanks, John. Thanks again to John Hoover for joining me. Really appreciate him talking about something so personal and sharing it with all of you as well. John's honesty about his diagnosis and his perspective on what comes next is a reminder that life isn't just about what we do, but how we face change and challenges when they come. Hope you have a great week.